Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Khalil Doheny. I'm Director of Content Marketing at Digital Niche Agency. Today we have the team of Black Hammer Brewing team. How are you guys doing today?
Awesome.
Fantastically well.
Thanks for
Awesome. Of
having me.
course, of course. And while people are trickling in, Kevin, Jim, do you want to kind of just go into intros and from there I'll kind of just lay out the land of what we can expect from the webinar today.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to
Well,
go first, Kevin?
yeah, do you mind? Um, First off, thank you to everybody for joining either today live or watching this in a recording. Couldn't be more grateful, more blessed to have you with us. We're really excited about where we are today and what we're here to talk about. My name is Kevin Jackie. I'm here with my business partner, the co-founder and our CEO, Jim Furman. And we are the leadership team of Black Hammer Brewing Company. We've been in business in the San Francisco Bay Area since 2015 and are really, really excited to share a very, very interesting and very exciting opportunity to get involved in the ownership of a craft brewery in an emerging place in an emerging time. So my background is I met Jim some time ago, about 10 years ago, and I am a executive in financial services. I've been in financial services the better part of 20 years, and had the opportunity to join Jim as a business partner, and he made me an offer I couldn't refuse. So very excited to be here, and I'll pass it over to Jim.
Thank you for that intro, Kevin. My name is Jim Furman. I'm the co-founder with Kevin and CEO of Black Hammer Brewing. And thank you as well to everyone for being here today. We couldn't be more excited. Yeah, like Kevin didn't really even enjoy beer before he started working with me on this company back in, I want to say that was like 2008, 2009 when we started. Really, the genesis of Black Hammer. And Khalil, should I get into the story right now, or we're just doing intros?
Just an intro right now, and then I'll kind of just lay it out for everyone after.
All right. Well, thanks everyone, and I'll turn it back to you, Khalil.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and thank you everyone who's attending the webinar today and everyone who's watching it down the line. Essentially, the webinar today is to kind of just learn more about Black Hammer Brewing, their story, and who they are, and learn more about the investment opportunity on Start Engine. And then we're also going to have some time at the end for some Q&A. So if throughout this fireside chat you have a question, please drop it in that Q&A chat box, and we'll make sure we're answering towards the end. With that being said, Jim, Kevin, I think we can just go straight into it right now.
All right, great. So as I started to say before, Kevin and I decided to found Black Hammer Brewing when, well, we met on a family vacation in New Jersey on the beach, and in Shaska bottles because they travel well. They don't look great, but they travel well. And after sampling some of these beers, Kevin started to, his eyes got pretty big and got pretty excited. And we started very quickly talking about building a brewery together. It was nearly instantaneous. And fast forward to 2015, where we opened Black Hammer Brewing in San Francisco, 544 Bryant. We are the only gluten-removed brewery in San Francisco and the most of the Bay Area. And we're a radically inclusive brewery where we work to create beers and beverages for everyone to enjoy. We pride ourselves in that, and we want to make sure that with gluten-removed beers, we've got an alcohol-free line called Sober Curious that we're working hard to make beer for everyone to enjoy. Fast forward to 2019, we opened a restaurant called Willkommen in May, which is a German fusion restaurant with indoor German beer garden, where you can drink beer under trees. And it's San Francisco, so it needs to be indoors. And our goal was always to open a brewery and open multiple tasting rooms as we propel ourselves into becoming a regional presence. Well, we opened, as I said, May 2019 was the opening of Willkommen, and then something happened in March 2020 that changed things a little bit for us. It wasn't all bad. believe it or not. It really helped us pivot and develop our wholesale business as we moved into packaging beer as a source of revenue, since, you know, we were all in lockdown for however long. Fast forward a couple of years into 2022, where we decided to continuing along this journey and this path, this vision, to develop our brand presence and our packaging and labeling to really stand out and be a presence on store shelves and in consumers' hands. And we spent a year redoing our brand with one of the leading beer design firms in the country. It turned out very well. Thrilled with how everything looks right now. And now we've Costco, we have our beers in Bevmo, we have in Whole Foods, in Northern California and Southern California. And we just recently launched national distribution, direct to consumer, not to bars, but anyone in most states in the country can order our beer direct to their door, which is super exciting. I'm going to turn it over to Kevin for a little bit. Kevin, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll take you back. 2014, Jim comes to a family vacation, huge red suitcase full of beer. I'm not a beer guy. I'm drinking Amstel Light, maybe typically a wine or a spirits guy. And what I didn't appreciate, I think, and what I think is really interesting about the whole beer space is it's more of an experience. It's, you know, it's not just slugging back a bunch of beers and getting hammered. It's more about the taste, right? And enjoying something that has a flavor profile that is, you know, across the board. You could get something that's sweet. You can get something that's bitter. You can get something that's kind of got a weedy tone to it, and you can get something that has like absolutely no wheat taste in it. So I think at that point I didn't appreciate the beer culture, and going through that and experiencing Jim, and each one of these beers was different. It wasn't, you know, 10 bottles of the same thing. It was essentially eight or nine different varieties. It gave me a new appreciation for beer and for the beer culture. So when Jim talks about inclusivity, I think as we've gone through this path since 2015, we've realized that there's a multitude of people who, you know, we didn't serve and couldn't serve because they've got, you know, gluten intolerance. They have a preference of not consuming gluten because they don't like the way that makes them feel. There's also people who don't drink alcohol. That's a whole entire market that we weren't able to satisfy. So what inclusivity for us means is giving people an atmosphere, giving people a place to come enjoy the flavor profile of a bunch of different delicious, thoughtfully designed beers in an environment that's conducive to that, right? And sometimes that means the right accoutrement, right? The right seating, the right access to, you know, to internet. That's when we initially built 544, our original headquarters. We thought about it from our perspective as to what would it take for me to go after work or at lunch hour to go spend some time and enjoy a beer. And it's coat hangers underneath the bar. It's access to electricity so I can plug in my cell phone if I need to. It's creating an environment and a service culture that is nurturing. It's thoughtful. It's inclusive, right? People don't know a ton about beer. I promise you won't find less snobby beer servers in all of the Bay Area than Black Hammer. So that's what we're after, and I think that's why we've, over the 8 years that we've been in business, have been able to steadily build our presence and have built the platform that we're excited to bring all of you investors onto. We think that beer is a medium. It's a mechanism to get people together, to celebrate the good things that life has to offer, and it's really kind of central to everything that Black Hammer stands for. So as we consider what our next steps might look like, and we talked a little bit about the beer garden. Jim and I spent a bit of time in Munich for Oktoberfest, and just experiencing that entire environment and feeling, you know, people who coming from all over the world for a common idea, although that's basically all they have in common. it felt like something that we knew would succeed and would thrive in San Francisco. So long-winded way of saying where we are today is kind of an amalgamation of that original idea and the post-COVID opportunity to plug into a fast forward right into wholesale, right? Our idea was to build out places where we can kind of use this incubation pods where people are ideating and helping us guide our beers to meet flavor profile. Now we're in a space to say we've got the confidence in our product that we want to push it out. And the reception has been enormously positive as we've gotten into Bevmo, we've gotten into Whole Foods, Costco, the list goes on. It's given us that proof of concept. We know that what we're doing is carrying us forward to that next stage. And that's where investors come in today. It's an opportunity for us to continue to build on that momentum. And we encourage everybody to consider, where we are today versus, maybe what other equity crowdfunding breweries have offered in the past. And we encourage you to look through the value that a Black Hammer valuation offers versus some of those others. So I think where we are is it's a labor of love. I call it my passion project. It's something that over 8 years we've poured an enormous amount of time and resources into. And we're very proud of where we landed, and we're really excited about the prospect of bringing on new partners, new investors who are excited about our brand or excited about what it is that we're trying to do, and will give us that energy to push forward to make that next step. So yeah, that's my my 3-minute spiel. I'll kick it back to you, Jim. Any thoughts or anything that I might have missed or not covered?
No, I mean the inclusivity, and attention to detail are, I'd say, those are two of our greatest strengths. I mean, besides our like objectively great beer that wins gold medals every year, including a gold for Quad Von Stroke, our Belgian quadruple this year in California. Which, congratulations to our brewer. I don't actually brew beer anymore. We have someone who brews beer much better than I can. And I'm pretty good. But besides that, you mentioned outlets at every seat, and something from the very beginning, before we even had a spot to put the brewery, you and I discussed this, and it was every seat should have an outlet. It is absurd to not have every seat have an outlet in 2015, and now especially 2024. And also, of course, free internet, like, of course. But those types of things, and that's just the surface of the detail that we put into our beer, into our messaging, into our spaces, that to craft the experience, and not just like when we say, so that's a good segue into the title or the tagline for our raise is more than just the beer. And that's because we believe it is a lot more than just the beer. Making good beer is easy. Making great beer is more challenging. We do that. But the community that we build with the beer, like Growler Pals, our mug club that we launched this year, has been fantastic. Of talking about bringing people together, bringing the same people together regularly, often on the same day, has its own special value in our lives, right? It's the reason people join clubs and go to church and do various other activities where you see the same people. But creating those experiences for our guests, for our staff, for our investors is what we love to do, more than anything else. And we're going to keep doing that and more as we grow. And speaking of growth, we should talk about what our growth plans are. So right now we are actively looking at 2 other breweries to acquire. We can't go and make any projections during this webinar, but there are some prospects that are looking very attractive right now. We're also we're working on growing our wholesale footprint, and we're very shortly we'll be starting a new distribution contract with the major distributor. We can't talk about who it is until it's inked, but it's imminent. So we're very, very, very excited for the rest of 2024. This is our year. So that is, when we say there's no better time to invest, literally 2024 is the year of Black Hammer. So we're pretty thrilled to be here.
Yeah, we believe that.
Literally and figuratively. So what's your turn, Kevin?
Yeah, we believe we're in a place that this is the inflection point for us. And what it is that we intend to do with the resources that you'll find in our on our landing page on Start Engine. And I encourage everyone to just have a read, right? I think it's a really, we have grown throughout this period of time very thoughtfully. We haven't at any period overextended ourselves, because there are things that happen that are outside of our control, right? A perfect example of that is COVID, right? We couldn't predict it. There's nothing we could do to protect ourselves from it. It cost us 4 months, over 14 months worth of on-site revenue, as it did for every restaurant and bar in California. So when we think of it from the perspective of where we are and why we think this is the right time, it's a combination of things, right? It's not just our plan. It's the way that the business of beer is changing, right? You're seeing an enormous amount of growth in the non-alcoholic space, right? I think that's a really important call out. Doing non-alc beer well is really, really hard. It's very, very challenging to get a strong flavor profile of a beer without the alcohol. It just is. So the reality of that scenario means that we have to be continuously innovating. And I think history will show that we've done a very good job of being innovative, right? And that goes back to the CBD beers that you can read in the New York Times. We back in, I think, 2017, we were given a cease and desist for producing beer with CBD. Not illegal, but it was not approved, so we weren't allowed to continue to do it. Non-compliant, yeah, that's the terminology. And then shifting that into the gluten removed component, which is opening up an enormous market for us to go after, right? People who maybe haven't ever thought beer was within their in their taste profile, because they didn't really have an opportunity to try a bunch due to the fact that it made their stomachs hurt, or it made them sick. So we're using this as continuously growing towards a product that is accessible, a product that is desirable, and doing this and still being able to create a beer that in a full gluten category can win beer competitions is really, really important, right? I think that is the special sauce. And when we think about why it's so important now, we're as we look forward, we know that wholesale distribution needs to grow beyond San Francisco Bay Area. It needs to grow beyond California in order for this to really achieve what we want it to. So these investments will be an enabler for us to be able to pursue those opportunities. And we're really, really excited to continue this dialogue. And again, making ourselves available, I think, is a part of why we're, as the partners associated with this organization, we make ourselves available to investors when necessary, right? If it's over weekends, if it's late at night, I do my very best to reach back out to all investors. We have regular updates. It's really important for us to have investors who feel really protected, right? It's a significant investment. We are conscious of that, and I think that's a really important part of why Black Hammer is a good place to invest into.
Yeah. And you took the words right out of my mouth, Kevin. I was going to ask around the non-alcoholic mocktail and industry. We've seen it rise, in the last year and a half. So it's great to be right there. But what about seltzers? I heard, how is it going with your hard seltzer line?
It's pretty great. So right now we started a line. We call it Black Claw, because it's a black hammer, and a hammer has claws. No other reason. And we had 3 flavors that we've launched, but the original Rosemary Meyer Lemon is so good and has outsold the other 2 by 10-1 that we decided to just focus on the Rosemary Meyer Lemon and just keep doing it well. We just did a major label revision that is being released. I think they're actually canning it at the brewery as we speak. I spoke to the brewer this morning. So there will be a fresh batch on shelves today. So if you stop by the brewery, I know you're going to be in San Luis Obispo, but anyone who's on the webinar, if you stop by the brewery this afternoon, I'd say after 4 p.m., we have a fresh batch of Black Claw. I can't wait to try it. I haven't tried this batch yet, but pretty fantastically well. It's won awards. It won a gold medal in 2021 for the best seltzer in California. So I think the seltzer market seemed to go and reach like a crescendo. I wouldn't quite call it a peak, and then it tapered off a little, but I feel like this summer we're going to see it come back a bit, maybe with the more craft focused hard seltzers like our own, rather than that other Claw one that you might have heard of. But yeah, we see steady sales all year long with our Black Claw. It's very popular.
Yeah.
And I like it too. And I'm not really a seltzer guy, but ours is that good.
Throughout this whole webinar, you've been saying gluten removed instead of gluten free. Is there a difference between those?
So yes and no. There's a difference in terminology. The FDA has a limit on what the gluten concentration can be to be called gluten free, and that is 20 parts per million, 20 ppm. We are not regulated by the FDA because we make alcohol. We're regulated by the TTB. The TTB doesn't have a charter for testing things, so they don't allow you to say gluten-free, no matter what the concentration is, if gluten has ever been in the beverage. So because we can call the seltzer gluten-free because it had never had gluten in it, but because we use an enzymatic process to remove gluten, we can't label it as gluten-free. Even when we have independent laboratories test it, it tests below 3 ppm. So it's well within the range of gluten-free by the FDA. We just aren't allowed to label it as such.
Does the flavor change at all when you remove the gluten, or does it
Absolutely not. The gold medal I just mentioned is a gluten removed Belgian quad that beat out all the non-gluten removed beers. So it clarifies it a little bit. So it won't make like a wheat beer clear, but it does clarify the beer a little bit, which is nice. Consumers love a bright beer. So,
and I invite anyone in the audience to ask your questions. If you have a question, please drop it in the Q&A chat box. Seems like we'll just go straight into some Q&A here. Let's see what we got. Could you provide a little bit more insight into the Black Hammer Brewing expansion strategy, including plans for opening new locations or entering new markets outside of San Francisco?
Yeah, absolutely.
Kevin, you want to get this one? Okay.
Yeah, sure. We're not giving forward-looking guidance, but our strategy is very much to find strategic opportunities that will expand the brand presence, right? We use tasting rooms as 2 things. One, it's a source of revenue, right? So it creates this baseline for our ability to test product, right? We can brew a batch, put it on the shelves in a couple hours time and get feedback, right? That's been a huge win for our process as we've kind of expanded into over 100 beers brewed in the 8 years that we've been in existence. So we use it as in many ways, as a validation of whether or not the product's going to sell elsewhere. So we've got our core processes that are our core products that are regularly brewed and sold to the larger shops. But we've also got this very dynamic schedule by which we introduce different beers, seasonal beers, all throughout the year. So our ability to continue to do that and to continue to use that to expand brand presence has a lot to do with where we are, right? So our objective of becoming a regional brewery, and what a regional brewery means, is having a presence outside of a single state or a single city. It would require us to think about expanding outside of the city walls of San Francisco. So when we think about executing against that plan, we've always been opportunistic. We think about it from the vantage of, can we find a space that is going to be supported by a neighborhood, or something that's close to a reasonable amount of other traffic, either professional or retail or what have you, that can support the necessary foot traffic to come into the brewery and to give us that kind of neighborhood kind of feel. When Jim actually pitched the idea almost 10 years ago, he was talking about Cheers and kind of that neighborhood vibe, and being able to kind of fill that need for having a place for everybody to come together. So that's sort of how we view where a space needs to be, and without kind of saying we're making promises, we are looking at expansion through additional space as well. So not just the wholesale business, which I think is how you become a regional brewery, but beyond that, our focus would be to identify opportunities where we think we can expand our market, have a higher degree of revenue coming through from that space, and really use that as the propulsion for us to continue to grow.
Let's see. We're seeing a question here that's talking about financials, and I just want to, just quick PSA to everyone. We unfortunately are not allowed to talk about the financials, not allowed to talk about projections, anything that's forward looking on this webinar. If anyone does have a question around any of those items, please visit the Start Engine page and ask your question in that discussion section. We can answer it there. It just has to be an open forum for everyone to go in there and take a look at those questions and answers. So unfortunately, whoever had this question here, we cannot ask or answer that question. I have a question over here saying, what about the team? Who's on the team, the background of the team, and why is this a team that I should invest in?
Sure. So aside from Kevin and I, where I don't know if I went into my background before doing this. My degree is in chemical engineering. I was a nuclear chemical safety engineer for 10 years. I have a license in mechanical engineering, so I'm a PE, which is basically, it's the most challenging licensure to get within the engineering community. So I've got what it takes to take this brewery to a much larger scale than we currently have. And as far as our team, our head brewer is Ruben Gensler. He's been with us for, I think, between 2 and 3 years. I want to say 2 years. And Ruben comes to us from, he's brewed at Speakeasy Brewing in San Francisco, Trumer Brewing in Berkeley, California, which is a global lager brewery. So that's part of the reason our lagers have become so incredibly good is Ruben's skills. Our sales team is led by Peter Bach, who comes to us from Fort Point Brewing in San Francisco. He's a natural born beer sales director. And our latest new hires, our operations manager, Ted Torres, who comes to us from Aslan Brewing and another brewery in North Carolina that I don't recall the name of. He's a very skilled community builder and operations coordinator. He's a fantastic addition to the team. We've had the same, and our accounting bookkeeping team we've had the same accounting and bookkeeping for 10 years. They're very close family friends and do a fantastic job. And then as far as the rest of our team, our servers and managers, a question was brought up the other day about how do we find quality staff? Quality staff finds us. We are very fortunate in terms of the quality of team members that have come to us. We count ourselves as extremely lucky in that regard. And the rest of our production staff, our brewer, who's just not quite the head brewer, comes to us from Woods Brewing, Nico Suarez. He's been in the business for, I think, 5 years. And our restaurant is managed by one of our servers who's been with us for 3 years, is now the GM and is doing a bang up job at that. And our kitchen is led by one of our original employees when we opened Vilcommon in 2019. Victor Heredia. So we've got our retention is fantastic. We very rarely lose people. People tend to stay with Black Hammer. I'm really excited to say that. It's fantastic. So,
And yeah.
No, I'm done. I'm sorry, Khalil.
No worries. I was just gonna ask, how many locations do you have in the city, and how are your relationships with the landlords? This person's asking, I just don't want to invest and then here you're getting kicked out.
Great question. So with the restaurant, Vilcommon, we have a 10-year lease that started in December 2018. So we're not getting kicked out anytime soon. And I think that I believe it has an option to extend up on it, but it has at least 5 more years. So, and then at 544 Bryant, which is the brewery location, we have an offer to extend for 5 years that we haven't yet accepted. But it's on the table right now. So we're very secure with both landlords. We're not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's important. It's also a renter's market, so we're very confident where we are in San Francisco. There's a reasonable amount of opportunity elsewhere if it weren't to have worked out. But for all intents and purposes, we're committed to those 2 spaces. I think from a branding perspective and from a community perspective, and a big part of that negotiation's been driving down the cost of our lease, right? It's fundamental to our growth plan. It's fundamental to our ability to stay solvent and to continue to do the necessary investments into our business, right? It's to reduce our fixed costs and reduce our variable costs whenever possible. So financially it makes sense for us to, even as we start looking at additional locations, it's always going to be about, can we find a stable base rate for our rent to ensure that as we're operating, we can do this with longevity in mind.
And there are potential investors on the call. Why did you decide to go the equity crowdfunding route?
Kevin?
Yeah, we thought about this for a while. When we built Vilcommon in 2019, our objective, and again, when we grow very thoughtfully and very conservatively. We do that for a bunch of reasons, and intentionality is definitely something that we strive for when we're talking about building this business. It has to be, deploying assets is not something that we take lightly. We have investors that we brought on since even before we were incorporated, and from my perspective, the growth plan, right, has to be thoughtful, right? It has to be something that we do incrementally. So we just, Start Engine was much newer in 2019. 2020 came and it shut our business down, and we kind of went into what do we have to do to pull through this, right? 4 months closed business was no joke. Every San Francisco business, in restaurant or hospitality, face the same quandary, right? So, PPP loans and those types of things were a necessity to go pay our rent and make sure that we can, to Jim's point, retain our people, right? We don't just talk about being people first. We live by it. So retaining our really strong employees and making sure that they can pay their own rent and feed themselves was paramount to us in that time. So we came out of it stronger, right? We came together, at that point and said, we're going to wait until we're back into a place where the business is stable and we're back in a position to grow. So that's why we've arrived at equity crowdfunding, because we've had a multitude of investors, more customers who were offering their own investment. We didn't have the platform and necessarily the resources to kind of pull them in a, you know, in a one-for-one way. So we look to StartEngine to kind of help us guide some of that, you know, some of the mechanics associated with bring a platform that can take, you know, somebody who's got a couple $1,000s to invest, the same way we can, you know, bring on somebody who wants to invest 10,000 or 25,000. So that was why StartEngine felt like a good fit for us. And we waited again back to a place where 2020 was not our best year. It was nobody's best year, in fact. But now that we're back to pre-COVID levels, we have a higher degree of confidence. We didn't want to take anybody's money if we didn't have 100% certainty that we'd be able to survive the pandemic, and that's kind of how we've arrived at this time as the right time to invest.
And then someone's asking, any plans to expand the restaurant to other cities across California or the country? Along with the beer, it seems as though it would be quite an appeal in airports or street food trucks.
Great question.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The street food trucks is tough because of liquor licensing, being mobile. It's very, in this state, it's very tough. I'm sure it works in some other states, but California doesn't. We're not really exploring that option too much because of the regulatory challenges. But as far as opening other restaurants, 100%. We are absolutely working towards that goal. We don't currently have another location outside the city for another restaurant to open. Actually, well, one of the acquisitions that we're looking at does include some restaurant components in multiple cities. And we would expand our cuisine to them as well. But so yes, we absolutely are, is the answer. And then as far as across the country, definitely. But one of the things we are doing, and Kevin spoke to this earlier, is we are growing carefully, pragmatically, and not looking to blow up fast and go down hard, which has happened to other breweries. I'm not going to name any brewery names or anything like that, but careful growth is the name of our game, and ensuring that we can do so profitably with minimal risk.
Kevin, Jim, I'm not really seeing any other questions coming in, but before we wrap things, you know, what are those, you know, top 4 reasons, so 2 from each, you know, someone should invest into Black Hammer?
Well, I'll start. One, because you want to be part of something great that we're doing, and want to earn a return on your investment as we grow. Of course, that's one reason. And another one is that you agree with you believe what we believe in that thoughtful, inclusive craft beer is important. It's not just making a product. It's the bringing people together. It is creating a product that everyone can enjoy. I am gluten intolerant, but we started making gluten removed beer before I knew that. And I only found out I was gluten intolerant because I noticed when I drank other breweries' beer, it made my tummy very uncomfortable. And then I got tested and found out, oh, I'm gluten intolerant. What a interesting karmic development. So those are my 2 reasons. I'll give Kevin a chance to talk.
Yeah, I love that. You know, it's true. You know, I'm over time I've become gluten sensitive. So you know that's a big part of this is, you know, our dietary restrictions, our dietary limitations change as we get older, right? When I was in my 20s, I could pretty much eat anything. Now I'm in my early 40s, and it's not so much the case. So your tastes change, you know, life changes. So too does your body's ability to, you know, to handle some things. And I think our ability, this kind of parlays into my thought here. We pivot when we need to, right? COVID we wanted to build 5 locations before we started focusing on wholesale. COVID gave us the fast forward button into saying, go focus on wholesale. We needed to, out of necessity. And it's been a huge win for us. It's given us the opportunity to build out a brand that's recognizable, something that's got continuity across every single can that we have, something that pops off the shelf. And that's been a really big part of, as we look back on this journey, you know, it's almost been serendipitous in that way. The way that things have kind of fallen into place have really shown us that, you know, our ability to be resilient and to deal with the, you know, kind of the shifting of landscapes that occur at times is a part of what makes us attractive as an investment, right? The resiliency of an organization should be paramount to everything else. Our ability to absorb, you know, going from, you know, most 90% of our revenue coming from the tasting room to 0% overnight was a huge, as you can imagine, an enormous challenge. So resiliency, I think, is a big part of it. And really, our investor centricity is something that I encourage everybody to think about, when not just for this investment, but for every investment. Jim and I took the rather unusual step of diluting only ourselves in this round. So every share that's purchased is purchased directly from Jim and I. It doesn't impact any of our initial investors. And we did that for a very specific reason. It was important for us to show that our growth plan, although it's a couple years slower than we had hoped it would be due to COVID, is still alive and well. And we are putting our money where our mouth is, right? I'm not, I love the Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank, Mark Cuban from Shark Tank, saying where it's like, I'd rather have 5% of something than, you know, 30% of nothing, right? From our perspective, it's we want to build, we want everybody to come along on this, and I want people to make return on their investment. I think that's really important. So when we make those types of actions, again, it goes back to intentionality. We're doing this because we think that if you come along on this journey, you're taking a risk on us, and we want to meet you halfway. So, you know, with that, I think this is a fantastic time to invest in beer. It's a really, really great time to invest in alt beer, and I don't think there's anybody else out there who is focused more on that alternative space and is capable of delivering than Black Hammer is right now. And that's my personal opinion. And absolutely would love to have you all come along on the ownership journey with us.
Awesome. Someone saying, I'm a huge fan of the product and the brand. So that's great feedback right there. I think another question just came in. How are you balancing new locations versus nationwide distribution investments, both time and money? Where is the impetus?
Yeah, it's a very thoughtful question. We have a desire to kind of to meet in the middle between capacity, right? Making sure that our customers, our core customers, can get their beer when they need to, when they sell out of it, as well as still continue to move towards that overall expansion. Again, we think of our retail spaces, our physical locations where you can come in and buy a pint of beer, as our baseline, right? It's how do we start with the right foundation to build off of, right? That's exactly what 544 is. That's what our Willkommen shop is, and that is what any other location that we bring on would be. It's a foundation builder, and it gives us a firmer foundation. The more that we have successfully deployed, gives us a stronger foundation to take more risks, to go try out and, you know, try Oregon, right? Try Nevada, like moving through this new channel, and then on the national distribution side, it gives us the confidence to put our product out there, you know, to learn, you know, what the market is going to accept, and really be in a space that says, yes, we're confident, we're moving in the right direction, and we're going to continue to pour fuel on that fire. So yeah, that's the short answer. Jim, I don't know if you had any other thoughts on that one.
Yeah, well, I also want to add that the way distribution relationships work is they're first and foremost relationships. So our expansion of territory is it's not a we choose to throw money at expanding to this new county. It doesn't really work that way. It works with meeting just distributorship owner or like director and forming a relationship and potentially expanding. And that expansion doesn't actually cost us anything. It they pick up the beer. So that's just us making more beer and selling it, which we make. That's how we make money. So we love that. As far as expanding to new locations, that's honestly, that is also opportunity based. Like, we're not going to force it. We're not saying we want a presence in Napa and forcing a presence in Napa. We look at Napa. It's on our radar. And when the right opportunity, we see the right opportunity, Kevin and I meet and decide to go for it. And that's really how we've been approaching growth, with our general strategy of growing both distribution and retail presence, but just weighing each opportunity in terms of profitability, risk, time and financial commitment. So that's all I've got for that one.
No worries. Yeah, I'm still seeing questions coming in about financials and return on investment. Go ahead and ask that question in the discussion section of Start Engine. Either Jim or Kevin will respond to that. It just has to be available for everyone. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, not ask it here on the webinar. But yeah, Jim, Kevin, I'm not saying anything else. Is there any final thoughts you want to leave the listeners with before we sign off?
Sure. I'll go first. Thank you everyone for joining us. I'm glad that you wanted to hear Kevin and I talk for 45 minutes. That's pretty exciting to me. But I'm even more glad that you're here considering investing in Black Hammer Brewing, and we massively appreciate you. One side benefit we didn't mention is I'm at the brewery almost every day. So if you ever want to come and say hi, I'm there. Kevin is there from time to time, but he's also always available. So we're very accessible executives in this enterprise. But thank you again, everyone, for coming. And yeah, let us know if you have any other questions, as Khalil was saying, in writing on Start Engine.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Yeah, and just wanted to double click on that. It's for us, it's a huge blessing to even have an opportunity to speak to you all. And again, thank you for gotten a lot of very kind comments in the chat, and it means a lot, right? We've done this because we think that everybody deserves to be able to get a great beer. Like, even if you don't drink alcohol, even if you don't, we want to create that environment across everything that we do. And it's really, really heartening to know that they appreciate it. As we kind of explore the opportunities that are presented in this next stage, communication's key. I know that some of the I've read in forums and from potential investors that communication sometimes could be a real challenge with parts like this. And that's my commitment to you all, is that you have access to me whenever you need. I take care of all the investor relations stuff, weekends, nights. I make it my endeavor to respond to every single email and every single outreach. As we start talking about some of these other components about things like dividends and things like that, please, I encourage you, don't there's another question that's popped in, but don't think, don't hesitate to reach out through the portal or what have you. It's the easiest way for us to communicate, and the best way that we can make sure that we remain compliant. I think, are we allowed to answer that question about the campaign extension?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Yeah, just very quickly, there are rules that necessitate the finalization of financials for 2023 in order to be able to raise past the end of April, that are SEC driven. So our compliance and our ability to continue to raise, we've actually only been open for, I want to say, a month. So our goal was always to do a 90-day raise. So the reason that we're extending to July the 1st is because we've always endeavored to raise through June. And it was just a matter of getting our financials done. And then, of course, as you all know, there's an additional step where we have to have a impartial accountant come through and verify that our books look right, which is another part of the process that all Start Engine entities are required to do. So that takes a bit of time. We closed our books at the end of March, and we're able to just get this finished in the last week. So we're now just at the point where we within 2 days, I think we were able to finalize all that to extend the raise for a full 90 days. So I hope that answers your question, but that is that's the impetus behind it.
Awesome. Well, Jim, Kevin, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to talk with us here today. And audience, thank you. We will be posting a replay on the Start Engine page, so be on the lookout for that if you choose to watch it later. Thank you. Hope everyone
Thanks,
has a good
everyone.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.